Welcome to this video about completing the form for SM2 of the spreadsheet assignment. In this video, I am going to show you what these controls are and how to program them. So let's get going then. So what we have here is a user form, and if I click this run button here, I've got a user form that pops up in front of the spreadsheet whenever I open Microsoft Excel. The form itself is designed to be the sort of centerpiece of the sales system for the Happy Days company. And we want to encourage the user to use this form as much as possible rather than typing things into the spreadsheet itself. Now they actually have to do a bit of both, but it's a lot easier, particularly for non-specialists, to use this form. So let's take a look at it then. There are different items that we can put on a form, and if we want to create a form, we go to Developer and we go to Insert, User Form, just there. I'm not actually going to make another one because I've made one here. So this is it in the editor mode of Visual Basic. If you want to test it, you need to click the green button there, like I did just now and have done again, and the form pops up. If you've had enough of the form, you should be able just to click there and the control goes back to the spreadsheet itself. To continue working on editing the form, go back to Developer and back to Visual Basic. Now, what do you need to know about all of this? Well, click on the form there. What you see here in VBA Project is a series of different parts. There's the Microsoft Excel objects, and that is a list of all the worksheets that you have in your spreadsheet. So when you add a worksheet to the spreadsheet, it will add on here. They've all got a name. They've got their programmatical name. This one is sheet 2. And then they've got the human name, which you've added, which is called quote. Down here you have forms, which is self-explanatory. To keep it simple, I would just have one form. And then here you have modules. Modules are pieces of code that you can create to do special things in your spreadsheets. Sometimes you will use them, sometimes you won't. Personally, I find it easier for SM2 if you keep most of the code in your form. I've called mine FRM data entry, and FRM at the start in lowercase just indicates that this object is a form. You don't have to do that, but I find that it's good practice to do so. But whatever you call it, make a note of the name of this because you're going to need it quite a lot. So, what are the different items that you can put on a form? Well, when you click on the form, this toolbox comes up here, and the things that I want you to use are as follows. This big yellow thing that I've created here is called a label, and that is found there with the letter A. And labels don't do anything, they just look pretty or they make something clear. So I can tell you folks that whoops, I've put one on there by mistake. That is a label, as is that, and this one, of course. These do not have labels, those names actually come with them. And these buttons here, these command buttons, the data on here, the text, is not actually a label. That comes with them as well. But these here are labels, and they're just sitting next to these text boxes to make it clear what they're supposed to be. So that's the first thing that you need to know about your form. The next one is this. This is the text box. That's this control here, text box. That is where you're going to get the user to enter data which is going to end up on the spreadsheet worksheet. And it's going to be their first name, and it's going to be their last name, the quantity of cards that they want as well. So those are text boxes. This chap here is called a combo box, and this is for the quality of the card. So a combo box allows the user just to select certain data from a list, and that data will be the card quality. These are checkboxes which you find here on the toolbox, and you can give them a name as you put them on there. This, and these four here are command buttons which you find here. They're really important because they're going to control so much of what happens when you use the spreadsheet. Something else that you need to know is that because this is object-orientated programming in VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, is that every object, and this form is an object, and this label and this checkbox, text box is an object, every object has properties which you find here, and these properties can be controlled with VBA code, or they can be changed in this box here. And also, all of these objects have code associated with them. The easiest way to get to the code is to right-click on the object, and I'm going to go onto this button here because button code is really important for what you need to do in SM2, and I'm going to right-click and I'm going to go to View Code, and that takes me to the text editor, and that's put me into these different pieces of code. These are called subroutines. If it says private sub and end sub, then everything in between is a subroutine, and the most common sort of subroutine that you're going to use is the click event. So if you write code, make sure that up here in this box it says click. And you can see here as I move from these different bits of code that this is changing. This is what these different buttons are doing. This command here clears the form. This command here does the copy quote code. Another one down here does a new quote, and this shows the price list. So the easiest way to get to the code is to right-click on an object and look at View Code. To go back to the form itself, visually, double-click on there and you're back again. So click on this button, view the code. This one is the quote history. Click on it, view the code, and yes, here I am. I'm in the quote history part of the form. So that's an overview of what you're doing with this. One final thing is, how do I make it so that this form appears when the Excel spreadsheet starts? Well, as I said, everything in what we're doing here is an object, and the actual spreadsheet workbook itself is an object as well. It so happens that this here, which is called this workbook, that is your SM2 spreadsheet. If you go in there and view code, there's one tiny piece of code here. I'll just spread it out a bit so it's clearer when you're watching this video. And this is on the open event of the workbook. And all it does, it just takes the name of the form. Mine is FRM data entry. No spaces, by the way. VBA does not appreciate spaces, dot show. I'll write that in for you again, just so you can see me type it. FRM data entry, that's my object, and then to access my object, I press the full stop or period button, and this comes up with what are called functions. So this object data entry has a huge amount of functions associated with it, and the one that I want to show you is called show. And that's all that that code does. It says when you open this Excel workbook, i.e. the whole spreadsheet for SM2, show the form. And I can test that by closing the editor, closing the spreadsheet, saving my changes, going here, double clicking and opening it up. And we should see here in any second the form front and center of this spreadsheet. There it is, all ready to use. And does it work? This is what you're going to program. Put my name in. Going to have 150 cards of superior quality. I want all the extras. And I've got a button here, copy this quote, because this is a quote, to the quote sheet. When I click this button, you should see all of this data go onto the form behind me. And it does. Then there's the right to quote history. That's going to do a shortened version of this for a quotation sheet. And this should fill it in automatically and show me the page where it's done that. I click on that and there it is. There's the data that I've just created. Okay, I can just do that again and again. Also, show quote sheet. That takes me to there, so that's actually shortcuts, button shortcuts. I've got one here to show the form, and I've also got one here called print the price list, and that shows the price list worksheet in print preview mode. You'll notice the page has been set up so that it is in portrait and everything fits on correctly. Okay, you can do that in the page setup property. Okay, so that's an overview of how this all works. And the final command I've got, which quits everything, is the quit form, and it actually quits the spreadsheet as well. And I click that. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and I hope that that's been useful in completing SM2.